Right, Celtic's transfer window is over. Deadline day has come and gone, and it has brought one signing, just one signing. Jeffrey Schlupp has come in on loan from Crystal Palace until the end of the season, and that is it. No striker to replace Kyogo. We're chatting about all of that and a lot more today with Asim. Asim, the window's closed in the last hour. Sum up how you're feeling.
Scunnered, if I had to pick one word. Obviously, it's pretty soon after the window's just shut, so I don't know. Maybe once we've slept on it, I'll feel a bit better. But I'll be honest, at the moment, pretty deflated, and it's strange because at a time when there's so much to be positive about, there's so much good going on at the club. Only Celtic somehow seem to find a way to come out of a transfer window, and I think from a lot of people that I've spoke to, and just generally the feeling across the kind of Celtic fans right now is pretty deflated, pretty despondent, and that's a strange way to be feeling given how positive things have been. But I just think the lack of getting a striker in, I'm pretty baffled by it, to be honest.
Yeah, I mean, I think we've always kind of in a transfer window. You always want that bit more, and you always want it to be a perfect window. And a lot of the time, that's maybe a little bit unreasonable as fans because there's always going to be various positions that you can't get done for whatever reason. But a lot of the time, those are positions that would really enhance things, but aren't an absolute must. Like for me, looking at the fact we haven't signed a striker, we haven't replaced Kyogo, the best striker we've seen at Celtic in a number of years. We've allowed him to leave and not been able to get anyone in, not even a loan in, ahead of the deadline. And we're now in a situation where we're kind of going to have to make things work. And I know people say Daisen Maeda plays up front for Japan, and listen, Daisen Maeda will do amazing for us up front because he does amazing. I think Daisen Maeda could play in goals and he would be amazing for Celtic. That's the kind of guy. But that's missing the point for me. The point is now that we've gone from a situation where we had good options up top to basically now only having Adam Ida as a recognised striker. As I say, Maida I think will clearly be the second choice there. But all the rotation options that we had at the start of the season where Kyogo would start a game, then Ida would start and it'd come on as subs, I just feel like it's all got a little bit messy now. Because Maida, who is a left winger, and Brendan Rodgers has said that, is now going to be asked to be a backup forward. Obviously, Johnny Kenny is there as well, but Johnny Kenny is not proven at all as a Celtic striker. So yeah, it's really frustrating. It's not a great place to be, and I really hope it doesn't scupper what has the potential to be an incredible season. I really hope we don't look back at this as being like a fatal mistake.
Yeah, and look at we've on the week of where we've got Dundee to look forward to on Wednesday. You've just had the whole emotion and buzz of Jota is coming back and he scored yesterday. We've got a cup game at, at the weekend, and then you've got the Bayern game, which everyone was looking forward to. But now all the questions, all the mood and vibe is going to be all questions about what Rodgers said last week. That's the other thing. The manager blatantly said he wants to come out the window stronger. He said he was asked specifically about Daisen Maeda and whether he can fill that role, and he could have came out with an easy answer at that point and said, yeah, that's an option. But he was quite clear in saying no, he wants to get a striker in. So what's he thinking at the moment? What's his response going to be? Because he's came out and said exactly what he wanted, and for whatever reason, and we can probably go into that later in the video, but it's not we've not delivered on that. You now have a game against Bayern where obviously Maeda is not available for that first leg. So who's our options? We're an Ida injury away from starting that game with Kenny. You then look at who can we bring on to freshen things up if we need to. So have the club just essentially written that tie off, which I know was going to be a difficult one, but that's no way to go into it. And we've still got a Scottish Cup to win. We've still got a league to clinch. Everything just smacks of complacency and just essentially accepting that we've the league's pretty much sewn up. But to go into a second half, when was the last time we went into a second half of a season with one recognised striker? And I don't care what anyone says about Maeda, but he's not played there for us. He's not our striker. He's a very effective left winger for us. So we can't even use that line. Yeah.
And the whole thing about signing Jota was that, he and Maida would be the left wingers and they'd be kind of coming in and out and you can rest them. And it now feels like you've basically got, you've kind of got Maida and Jota as your left wingers and Maida and Ida as your forwards. So Daizen Maida is either going to be playing a hell of a lot of football or you're not going to be able to rotate Jota and Ida virtually at all. I know James Forrest can play out there, but you're just kind of making things work rather than just having a genuinely good squad there. And as I say, the frustrating thing is that we do every other position I think is as strong as we've been in years. Listen, we'll circle back to the striker stuff. Hello everyone, by the way. Hopefully you're in a slightly better mood than us after having a good sleep. Asim's got a sleep to look forward to. I need to power through the day thinking about this. Jeffrey Schlupp has come in, or Jeff Schlupp. I think he prefers to be known as Jeff. He's joined us on loan from Crystal Palace until the end of the season. He's out of contract with Palace in the summer, so maybe there's scope there for us to sign him in the summer. We'll have to wait and see if we're looking for a left back or not. 32 years old, Ghana international. I watched an interview that he did on YouTube, I think 4 or 5 years ago, sitting in a cafe while he was at Palace, and quite an interesting insight into Jeffrey Schlupp, and he seems quite a laid back guy, doesn't take the headlines on or off the pitch. I think as much as he hasn't really played much for Palace, I think all of his appearances have been off the bench this season. He still seems to be pretty liked at Palace. I'm trying to think of like a Celtic equivalent, but someone who, you maybe know he's not the answer as a first team player for your club, but you still appreciate what he's done and what he brings. And listen, Palace are a top team, so it's no disgrace not playing for them. So yeah, anywhere on the left, he says he feels good. I think he's a bit of a utility player, but I think generally people seem all right with this as a solution to the Kieran Tierney issue.
Yeah, 3 positions I think I've seen that you can play left back, left wing, striker. So typically that will be Celtic saying that they've ticked every box. I wonder if we do see him maybe as an option to play left mid.
He did say in this interview that he prefers left mid
Midfield,
to left back, and this is 5 years ago, so that might have changed, but maybe that's what we're looking at.
Yeah, it could be, and then like you say, that might lighten the load on Maeda if the plan is for Maeda and Ida to kind of be your predominantly forward options. Jota and Schlupp kind of play left back, and then carry on with Taylor and maybe Scales occasionally in left back. But like you said, whilst it could all work, it's just not ideal, isn't it? And
Yeah.
Schlupp in isolation, I think I'm fine with that. The left back issue was a strange one. Obviously, with us, we'll know that we're going to get KT back in summer. The plan was to try and get him now. That wasn't going to be the case. So it was always going to be this kind of move. And to me, he's always been a consistent kind of player for Palace and Leicester. Physically seems good engine on him, strong, pacey. So I'm happy with that. To be fair, I've got no issues with this. If KT wasn't going to be coming back, then I prefer this to Malacia, who was the other one that we were linked with. And I think it's a good move, and if it goes well, it's probably an option that we might consider in summer. So no issues with left back. Jota was a great acquisition, obviously. We've got rid of a few non-contributors, Palma, Home, Nawrocki. No, he's still there. So Welsh is obviously gone. So yeah, that's all fine. It's the striker issue that's obviously the concern. But yeah, Schlupp, I think most fans will be okay with that.
Yeah, I'm kind of relatively positive. He's got experience. I think he's played like 200 Premier League games, and he was at Leicester, I think, for 12 years, all the way from his youth career. Won the league with Leicester, was part of their squad that won the league. Then went to Palace, and he's been at Palace for a number of years. So I think he's a pretty likeable guy, as I say. By the way, I'm in touch with a Palace fan, trying to get him on the channel some stage soon to find out more about him. But certainly seems like a guy who's not going to rock the boat at all. He's going to come in. Obvious comparison is someone like Aaron Moy. And Aaron Moy signed, and people weren't necessarily expecting much from him, and Aaron Moy turned out to be one of my favourite Celtic players of recent years. So maybe something similar could happen with Schlupp. He certainly reminds me in terms of his experience and
yeah. And I think anything we've probably you see on online and stuff from like Palace fans or Leicester fans. Even I've seen Clinton Morrison on Sky Sports News there singing his praises. So it seems similar to that kind of Moy one, where any fans of clubs that he's been at seem to really rate him and rate what he can bring to a squad. So, and also his attributes seem different to what Taylor possesses, and that's what we've kind of been saying for a while, isn't it? We want a bit more physicality in that left back area. So I think that one's totally fine. No issues with that at all.
Okay, Jeffrey Schlupp saying, I'm really happy to join Celtic, such a massive and iconic name in football. I have spoken to Brendan and I am really looking forward to working with him and the lads in the squad as we aim to bring more silverware to our supporters. The team has already done brilliantly this season, both domestically and in Europe, and I know I am joining a really successful team, but I want to add to this to play my own part and help us achieve even more. I can't wait to get started, to pull on those famous green and white hoops, meet the fans and give everything I have to bring us more and more good times. So Jeffrey Schlupp has signed. Excited to find out more about him. Possibly a debut on Wednesday night, maybe.
He's and he'll be in for Palace at the weekend against United. Right. So yeah, he'll be fit and ready to go.
Cool, and he'll be in the Champions League squad. I guess he'll take Vai's place, won't he? So that's fine. Striker stuff, as we've kind of touched on, Brendan Rodgers 10 days ago, Asim said, this is on Daizen Maeda being our second striker. He can do that, but I would still want to bring in another striker. I think he can play there. So yeah, pretty clear Brendan Rodgers saying that he wanted to sign another striker. And I think that for me is the big issue here, is that you've got the manager saying one thing and the club doing another. So there seems to be a disconnect there. Pretty clear disconnect. It can't be argued in my mind, and yeah, that's really not good for me. That's for all the good stuff going on at the club. That is a concern,
and that's what we remember happening last time. When it all started going downhill with Rodgers and the relationship with those above him, and it's just puts him in a difficult position now because he'll obviously get asked about that. He'll get asked about those comments last week, and he'll have to try and think of a way to make it seem like it's all part of the plan, which we all know isn't.
Do you think he will, or do you think he'll will he be a bit critical?
Yeah, well, that's the thing. He said something yesterday, was it, about not wanting to fall out with himself and do the things that happened last time, which I thought was a strange comment. So I think it's going to be very telling what mood we as a press conference probably later today when this obviously goes out. So I think that's going to tell a lot. I don't think he'll rock the boat again, but he's got. I don't know. What do you think? Do you think he'll? Because Rodgers usually he says it how it is in terms of he can't really hide when he's annoyed, and I just can't imagine him being happy with this situation. We're going into a playoff tie. We've got a cup to win. He's obviously going to want to put Rangers back in their place after what happened at Ibrox. For him to lose his main striker, and then earlier in the day there was links of Danny Ings, and I've seen a lot of people weren't too happy with that, myself included. Wasn't overly inspired by that, but now you think of it, anyone would have done really to come in and just bolster numbers wise. As much as I don't think in terms of forward thinking, and my hopes were that we would get someone in, bed them in, and then we're kind of good to go for the Champions League qualifiers in summer. But failing that, you'd have at least just wanted numbers for this season. And to not even have that, to me, there's no way the manager's going to be happy with that. So I'm intrigued to see what tone he comes out with tomorrow.
Because he has a particular way of putting across how he feels, doesn't he? So you'll be able to tell pretty easily. He's very astute with the media. He knows the things to say that will get the reaction and go as wide as possible. And on Sunday after the game, I thought the comments were I'll be honest, I thought the comments were strange, and I don't necessarily mean that as a slight on Brendan Rodgers. I mean that on maybe the situation that's going on behind the scenes. But as you say, talking about not wanting to fall out with people, and there was some other comment he made, about having changed from his first spell, and I'm just thinking, have things really changed behind the scenes? And I think he was hopeful after the game at Fir Park of getting a striker in and loan, because he kind of hinted at that. And the fact that hasn't happened, I guess that's been a big change from Sunday. So I think we might see. I certainly hope, and I don't know what fan media are at the press conference, but I hope whoever's there asks, and I hope it's framed as, things are really good at Celtic right now. The fans are in love with this team. Lots of fans are in love with Brendan Rodgers and what he's doing. I think everyone, even if you're not a fan of Brendan Rodgers, recognises he's doing a brilliant job. There's so much to feel good about, and yet you're just like brought back down to earth when the club literally want to go into the rest of the season, as you say, with one recognised striker. One striker who is first and foremost a striker for us, that's proven, Adam Ida. So I think it's going to be interesting. I think we might get something from him, and there might be a feeling that all is not well. And to be honest, I'd rather that, because the thing I don't want is Brendan Rodgers to do what he often does and put on a not a brave face, but put a positive message across. Yes, we tried this, we tried that, and then after a big defeat in a few months, it then comes back out. Like after Bayern batter us, it comes back out. Oh, we should have done this, we should have done that. So yeah, it's a kind of tricky situation.
It's a tough balancing act he's got now, because he's not going to want to say something too negative a week before.
Yeah.
Well, I say this now, and again, it might just be the raw feeling I've got just now, but my excitement and enthusiasm for that Bayern game, I'm sure it'll be built up again as the week goes on. Yeah. But right now, I just feel like the club aren't taking it seriously. So why should we get into this absolute hype and Champions League nights at Celtic Park and all that? Yes, because we go there and hope to dream and hope to pull off a coup and have one of those magical nights where you take on the big boys and can do something. But I feel like the club have just kind of written that off, and I've seen people say, "Oh, what difference would a signing have made?" It's not about that. It's a general principle. It's a general mood, and I just feel like they've written that off. They've created now a kind of negative mood within the fan base, who were all buzzing after yesterday, and just generally this time last week we were talking about Kieran Tierney maybe returning, and I know that's out with the club's hands probably, right? But Matthias Kvistgaarden maybe being a record signing striker, and then obviously Jota, and everyone was feeling so good, and now to only have Jeffrey Schlupp come in the door, it's just a hell of a come down.
Yeah.
So I think tomorrow's going to be really interesting. I, like you, do want him to kind of be honest. I think the fans are owed an explanation. What's gone wrong here? Because clearly something's gone wrong.
Yeah.
As much as he might try and come out and say, "Look, we've still got good options," and he's already kind of made his bed last week with as to what he wants. And I think it's just anyone from the outside looking in, or anyone that's followed us all season, Adam Ida up until Villa game hadn't been firing all cylinders himself. He's gone quite a lot of games without scoring, and thankfully he's looked much more like he's on it the last couple of games. But to have only him as your kind of main striking option, there's no way that any questions that are posed to Rodgers tomorrow won't bring that up. So the other thing as well, you look at who we were linked with. There's hardly been any links today. It was Danny Ings, very kind of tenuous link. And then at the weekend, Iheanacho. I think there was probably something in that. But again, that's one of Rodgers' old kind of contacts. So is there a disconnect again as to how the recruitment's working? Was he kind of given some names, didn't like them? Who knows? And I think, again, this is where we are owed a bit of an explanation as to what on earth is going on. What's Peter Tisdale been doing for the last few months? Where's the strategy?
I don't know what Peter Tisdale's been doing. Paul Tisdale might be the one you're talking about.
That's how fried I've been today. Paul Tisdale.
Poor Paul. I know, listen, we're joking about it, but it's a very, very fair point. He came in October, I think, early October, and so he's had time to set things up. And as you say, looking at it, this window, we've signed Jeffrey Schlupp, who we clearly were interested in before Tisdale, because we've known about him for a while. We were close to signing him in the summer, and Jota, who clearly we know all about. So it's disappointing. I think the Iheanacho stuff was pretty serious. There's been a few reports, a few journalists saying that he was keen to come to us and play under Rodgers again. Obviously, they worked together at Leicester, but we couldn't quite get a loan deal done. I don't know why Middlesbrough could and we couldn't. Obviously, it's not the first time Middlesbrough have beaten us to a signing, and it worked out quite well last time. And I do wonder, putting a positive spin in this, maybe as much as we're probably looking at the striker situation and a bit concerned, it could be good for Adam Ida. I mean, Adam Ida is going to be the main Celtic striker for the rest of the season, and that could be the real making of him. And we may view that as being really positive, but again, if Ida picks up an injury, it's
That's
like,
the thing, yeah.
what are you doing? Like,
It's
Maida's going to go up top. It's not going to be Johnny Kenny, I don't think. Maida's going to be your striker, and then suddenly you're like reliant on Jota. So it just feels like everything's kind of pushing it down the road a bit or pushing it up the positions. I just want to ask you, I mean, are we too accommodating of players who want to leave? Because I know since like Ange Postecoglou came into the club, the attitude has very much been, if you don't want to be here, we'll find a new place for you. Celtic will be fine, etc. And Brendan Rodgers has kind of carried that on a bit. And I know in the COVID season we had a bit of a nightmare. We held on to some players for a season too long, and we all know how that ended. But like Kyogo saying he wants to leave, it strikes me that every other club we deal with, for example, Brøndby, and
yeah.
assuming we were in for Chris Garden, they kind of say, no, we're not selling it, we'll sell him in the summer. Yet Celtic are kind of like, yeah, Kyogo, if you want to leave, sure, we'll sort a deal out for you in January because the money is too good. Are we too accommodating of players like that? Should we have said to Kyogo, okay, you can leave in January if we
Yeah.
agree to sign someone else. If not, you're staying till the summer. I'm sorry, we pay your wage. We're in charge here. We'll let you go in the summer. But it just seems to me, and I wasn't massively against letting Kyogo go, I'll be totally honest. I loved what he did for the club, but I felt we could improve. But selling him and not signing a replacement in January for me is like just
Yeah.
incredibly bad business.
When that news broke last week, obviously there was massive kind of shock, and everyone was a wee bit worried about what we're going to do. And I remember Chris Sutton was saying that's it's a bad move, and but what kind of appeased me and gave me a bit of calm was Rodgers' press conference. When he said he wanted to go, he's been wanting to go for a while. The club we're aware of it, we're prepared, and there's stuff ongoing to get his replacement in. That's why then everyone was like, okay, in hindsight, you can look at that and be like, right, Kyogo wants to go, we get good money in for him, and we get a new guy in, and that would have worked. But it only works if you actually follow through. So now
Yeah.
looking back, 100%, we should not have sold Kyogo. It's categorically a mistake. We could have said to Kyogo that like as you mentioned, any other serious, properly run football club would do that. That you're only going if we've got an adequate replacement in. If not, then you stay put. So
Yeah.
yeah, that's where again it just shows you that how badly are we run sometimes. There's no justification at all for what's just happened this last week. And it just seems like Rogers was pretty calm last week, so he must have thought something's happening. So again, explanations are needed.
Okay, here's the squad as it looks for the rest of the season, Asim. What daft question, but what stands out to you here?
Yeah,
So
where should we?
run through the positions then. So starting with goalkeeper, so that's kind of
Yeah,
fine, isn't it? Right
goalkeeper's
back,
fine. Right back, we're fine. Obviously people have been saying for a while in terms of maybe an upgrade on Tony Ralston, but I think he showed yesterday again he's more than capable of filling in and doing okay. So no issues there. The centre back positions, ideally, again, Nawrocki is not contributing, so you'd look at that and try and get someone else in. But again, we've got three good options there: Carter Vickers, Trusty, and Scales. You're happy with left back Taylor and Schlupp. Again, fine with that for now. We know that Kieran Tierney will be coming in the summer, so that'll strengthen that area. Midfield, again, good depth, good quality there. You could argue we are still looking for a certain type of player, a midfield enforcer, but again, that can be dealt with in summer. And then your wide options when Jota's came in, we were linked with a Norwegian winger as well, which seemed like we'd actually bid for him. So again, you just wonder what's happened there, because that could have at least strengthened your hand a wee bit with allowing Maeda to feature more as a centre forward if you had another winger. And then obviously you look at the striker option. It's just laughable really when you look at that. One injury away from Kenny and Cummings as your centre forward. So yeah, no matter what way you look at it, I can't see any positive in that. We've came out the window weaker. I think that's clear to see now. Um, yeah, no, like it's hard to kind of really look at that in any kind of positive way, is it?
Right. Well, let me try. We're we're still, looking really good. We're doing well in the league. I think it generally is a strong squad, apart from the striker stuff. And maybe, just maybe, we get lucky. Ida doesn't get any injuries. I don't think he's really had many injuries at the club, and he can play as the main man. And maybe that gets him to the level that for next season onwards, he's like a proven, reliable Celtic goal scorer. Maida, Jota on the left hand side can kind of do that. Maida can fill in up top if needs be. Schlupp can come in. It's not perfect, but it can still be a good season.
Yeah, look, we'll win the league, and we'll hopefully win the Scottish Cup. But you put yourself at risk now of being severely weakened. And again, I know it's hypothetical, but yes, it's what we're essentially talking about is an injury or options off the bench. But domestically it should be enough. Who's to say we can't still have a good performance against Bayern? But it's the optics more, Hamish, I think, rather than the inevitability of what happens this season. Yes, we're likely to lose to Bayern regardless. Yes, we're going to win the league, and the Scottish Cup's still there to win. But it's more just about, as of summer, it looked like we were changing how we're doing things. It
Yeah.
seemed like, I know it was late, the deals that we got done, but it just seemed like there was a bit of forward planning. There was a bit of structure. Things just seemed like we were heading in the right direction, and I think it's more that's the frustration rather than is this going to impact this season dramatically. So yeah, yeah. There's still other things to be positive about, as we spoke about at the start of the video. We're in a healthy position in the league. You're still in Europe, and let's see what Rodgers has got to say tomorrow.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting press conference. Play Dundee tomorrow night as well. So, listen, things are going to kick on pretty quickly, and let's hope the team can just keep up their form and deal with this. Clearly, disappointing we didn't get a striker in, but what option do we have now other than to get on with it? Asim, thank you. I know it's late where
No
you are,
worries.
so I'll let you go and get to your bed and enjoy your sleep and wake up refreshed in the morning.
Yeah,
And
hopefully a lot more positive feeling tomorrow.
yeah,
We'll see.
definitely. Right, everyone, appreciate you watching. I'll be back tomorrow to look ahead to the Dundee game.